We have a roll call, please.
Councilman Woodford.
Present.
Councilman Henry.
Here.
Mayor Shelton.
Here.
Vice Mayor Epps.
Here.
Councilman Womack.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those that wish to do so to stand for the invocation given tonight by City Manager Mike Davidson, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag.
Let us bow. Merciful Father in heaven, Lord, we are so blessed with this day, another day upon this earth to spend time with one another, with family and friends, Lord. So blessed to live in a wonderful community, a community that has overcome challenges, that come together to take care of one another. And we're so blessed, Lord, and thankful for no injuries from the recent storms, thankful for the crews, the men, the women of this city that have worked so hard, and the community as well, that have all come together to work and take care of one another. And we ask, Lord, that you lead and guide this council, the work that they do, that it may be to your glory, to the city's betterment. And Lord, we just ask that you continue to lead all that we do, and may it be in your service. This is our prayer made in your Son's most precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll consider approval of agenda as presented. Are there any changes or corrections?
Mayor, we have no changes to the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 4, appointments. 4A, consider appointment of city attorney for a 2-year term. Mike Davidson.
Mayor and council members, Dan Rader has agreed to serve again on a 2-year term, and I would ask you to consider appointing him as well as the other associates and partners in his law firm to serve in his absence as well.
Very good. I make a motion to appoint Daniel H. Rader III as city attorney for a 2-year term effective July 1, 2017, and authorize Mr. Rader to enlist the assistance of other attorneys in his law firm, Moore, Rader, Fitzpatrick, and York, to serve as assistant city attorneys on an as-needed basis with approval of the city manager. And that would be a motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
4B, consider appointment of city judge for a 2-year term. Mike Davidson.
Mayor and council, I would ask you to consider appointing David Ledbetter again to serve as the city judge on a 2-year term, as well as Joey Buck Gothard to serve as a special judge in his absence.
Thank you. I make a motion to appoint David Ledbetter, city judge, and Joy Buck Gothard as substitute judge to serve due to illness, recusal, or other absence of the city judge for a 2-year term effective July 1, 2017, and that is a motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. 5A, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on May 18th, 2017. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
And 5B, hold a public hearing and consider on second reading ordinance 0170507, amending the budgets of the General Fund, Solid Waste Fund, Drug Fund, Animal Control Fund, Economic Development Fund, and Quality of Life Fund of the City of Cookeville for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2017. Ms. Emmel.
Mayor and council, this is the second reading on this ordinance, and we did have to make one change from the first reading, and that is in the general fund expenditures. We are increasing the budget amount for the Public Works Department salaries and wages overtime, $20,000 due to this week's weekend storms. That brings the total increase in budgeted expenditures in the general fund to $955,952. That's the only change we made. We've had no calls or comments on the ordinance, and I'd recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
Worth every dime.
All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. On the consent agenda, 6A, set a date, July 6, 2017, for a public hearing on ordinance 0170611, rezoning 113, 116, 119, and 127 Locust Avenue, 440, 446 A, B, and C, 454, 464 A and B, and 472 East Hudgens Street, and 103 and 107 North Maple Avenue from RS5 Single Family Residential to CN Neighborhood Commercial. And then 6B, set a date, 7/6/17, for a public hearing on ordinance 0170612, amendments to the zoning code to insert provisions for single-family cluster development in RD, RM8, RM14, CN, CL, and CG zoning districts. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion a second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. New business, 7A, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance O-170608, providing a tax levy for the 2017-18 fiscal year. Ms. Emmel.
Mayor and council, this ordinance sets the tax rate for the new budget year. The tax rate will be the same. There is no increase in property taxes. It'll be 84 cents. And that should provide a projected $6,896,319 in revenue to the city. That tax rate breaks down and will be allocated the same as last year. 71 cents will go to the general fund, 4 cents to the Geo Debt Service Fund, 4 cents to the Economic Development Fund, 1 cent to the Quality of Life Fund, and 4 cents to the Solid Waste Fund. The 1 penny on the tax rate is estimated to be $82,099. And this graph just shows you where the city's tax rate is in comparison to other cities. And this is the 2016 rate. To other cities in the state of Tennessee with populations over 14,500. And this is sorted by per capita. And you can see we're in the lower half of that graph. So that's all the information I have on that. I'll be happy to answer any questions, but would recommend your approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, a second. We'll open the public hearing portion of the meeting. Do we have anyone that would like to speak to this matter? All right. We'll close the public hearing and any discussion among the council. All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7B, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance O-170609, authorizing appropriations for financial aid to public service, nonprofit, and charitable organizations for the 2017-18 fiscal year. Ms. Emmel.
Mayor and council, this ordinance does the appropriations for our nonprofits and governments and joint ventures for the new year. We look at it in 2 groups. This first group is our joint ventures and governmental agencies. And this budget includes an allocation to the Putnam County Library for $325,000, Tennessee Rehabilitation Center, $53,589, Cookeville Senior Citizen Center, $47,530, Upper Cumberland Regional Airport, $28,000. The Chamber of Commerce will be $14,750 from the general fund and another $15,250 from the utilities. The Chamber of Commerce will also receive $50,000 restricted to the Highlands Initiative, another $25,000 for the Sports Council. The Emergency Management Agency, $25,400. Cityscape, $25,000 for operations, $8,000 in our partnership with the 4th of July fireworks, and $15,306 in our partnership with Fall Fun Fest. And the Tennessee Central Heritage Rail Trail will receive $8,007. That's a total of $625,582 for our governmental agencies and joint ventures. Not funded was the Cookeville Senior Citizen Center had requested an additional $10,000 in funds, and that is not included in this budget.
Thank you.
The other group of is the true nonprofits, and we did them the same as we've done in the last 2 years. We had an application process, and for this year we received 25 applications from 25 agencies, and they requested a total of $1,019,568 in assistance. The amount we had available to allocate was $128,750. We had a committee of 7 Cookeville citizens that reviewed all the applications, read them, met as a group 3 times, and made the recommendations for the allocations that are in the ordinance. And those are Cookeville Arts Council, $20,000. The Cumberland Art Society, $2,000. Clean Commission, $9,000. UCHRA Meals on Wheels Program, $3,000. Genesis House, $12,000. Helping Hands of Putnam County, $12,000. WCTE Public Television, $10,000. And then they'll get an additional $5,000 for advertising for the city. H.G. Stevens Center for Child Abuse, $5,000. Kids Putnam Inc., $6,000. The 13th Judicial District Recovery Courts, $15,000. Court-appointed Special Advocates, $2,500. Cookeville Children's Museum, $2,250. Upper Cumberland Child Advocacy Center, $4,820. Putnam County Veterans Organization, $3,000. Upper Cumberland Family Justice Center, $8,250. Putnam County Imagination Library, $5,000. PATH program at Plateau Mental Health is $2,930. And Cookeville Impact, $1,000, and that's the total allocation of $128,750. These are the agencies we received applications from that were not recommended for funding in this fiscal year's budget. The Humane Society of Putnam County requested $7,500. UCHRA Residential Centers requested $6,544. The Cookeville Regional Charity Foundation requested $10,000. Cookeville Rescue Mission requested $15,660. Biz Foundry requested $17,500. Veterans Honor Guard requested $4,000. Putnam County Habitat for Humanity requested $75,000. And Community for Heroes requested $720,000. And again, those were not recommended for funding in this budget, and they're not included in the ordinance. So to summarize this ordinance that you have before you, it appropriates $769,582 in appropriations to governmental agencies and joint ventures, and then the nonprofits. And I would recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. We'll open the public hearing portion of the meeting. Do we have anyone that would like to speak to this matter? All right. We'll close the public hearing portion. Comments from the council? Yes, sir.
Briefly, if I just might make one observation, the 7 citizens who worked on the nonprofit organizations, we had over $1 million in requested funds, about $128,000 of allocated funds. This is the second year that we've used that process of citizens helping us. They did a great job, yeoman's work, and just made our job much, much easier as they put additional eyes on these requests of these very deserving nonprofit organizations. And Melinda, thank you for working with that group. And I just can't say enough about how much I appreciate what they've done, and just special appreciation that goes out to them for helping us make this process easier.
Yes, we appreciate their assistance too. It made our job a lot easier too.
Absolutely. Any other comments? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7C, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance O170610, making appropriations for the various funds, departments, and agencies of the city of Cookeville, Tennessee for the 2017-18 fiscal year. Ms. Emmel.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I have lots of slides, and I've been told to go fast, so I'll try to go as fast as I can. But if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me as I go. We're going to stop right into the general fund. The general fund is projected to have a beginning fund balance of $15,676,000. This budget includes projected revenue of $26,570,000, transfers in of $91,000, capital outlay note proceeds of $550,000, operating expenditures $26,249,000, and capital expenditures of $1,369,000. And this budget has a deficit, and we project reducing fund balance by the amount of $407,580. So we should have a fund balance at the end of next fiscal year of $15,268,000. Just to point out, since we had our public works session in May, we did make a few changes to this budget. And as I share with you on Monday, the deficit at the work session was $367,000. We added the HR software for that's going to be cost shared with utilities for $16,750. We're going to reseal and restripe the parking lot at the Senior Citizen Center for $6,800. And we anticipate some expenses on site assessment on potential property to locate a police station. So that's $16,500. So that's a total of additional budgeted expenditures of $40,050. So that brings our deficit at this reading and in the ordinance you have before you of $407,580. But keep in mind, this budget includes grant matching funds for the skate park of $400,000, which we intended to take out of fund balance anyway. So, general fund revenue summary: revenues $26,570,000. Transfers in of $91,000. That's $75,000 from the Economic Development Fund, and that's to cover the contribution to the Chamber for the Highlands Initiative and the Sports Council. And then $16,007 from the Quality of Life Fund to cover the contribution to the Rail Trail Authority and the Cityscape 4th of July fireworks. And this budget also includes a capital outlay note of $550,000, and I'll talk to you more about that later. So a total revenue of projected revenue of $27,211,864. And you can see this is our sources of our revenue in a pie chart. The large blue quarter on the right side is property taxes, and we just talked about those in the previous ordinance. The big green part of the pie, or about 50% of the pie, is our local option sales tax. So to talk about it, this is a historical graph of our actual sales tax collection over the years. We have projected continued growth in our sales tax of 2.75% in this budget. So our fiscal year 18 budget estimate of sales tax is $13,219,000. Some other revenue highlights in this budget are in lieu of tax payments from our utilities and some from private industry. You can see Russell Stover's is zero. If you recall, they exercised their option to purchase that property, and they are now on the tax rolls. Wholesale beer tax, $1,110,000. Business tax, $1,202,000. Wholesale liquor tax, $400,000. Hall income tax, we continue to reduce that budget as they phase it out, but it'll be $250,000 is what we project. And then the capital outlay note of $550,000. So between the property taxes, sales tax, and these highlighted revenue items here, that's over 90% of our revenues in the budget. And to summarize, again, total revenue, $26,570,857. A capital outlay note of $550,000, and transfers in from other funds of $91,000 for a total of $27,211,864. And we're going to move right into the expenditure side. In the general fund, we have projected expenditures of $25,404,312 in this budget. Contributions to the governmental agencies and nonprofits, $754,332 that we just talked about in the previous ordinance. Transfers out, $91,000, and that is $88,000 to the Animal Control Fund, $3,000 to the Tree Board. And then this budget also includes capital purchases of $1,369,800. $16,750 of that is for the General Department, $234,500 for the Police Department, $450,000 for the Fire Department, $188,500 for Public Works, Leisure Services $408,000, but $400,000 of that is the skate park match. Parks and Maintenance $34,800, and the Codes Department $37,250. Total appropriation budget $27,619,444 for the General Fund. This shows you our operating expenditures by type, and you can see because we are a service industry, we basically provide services to our citizens. 79% of our operating budget is personnel and personnel-related costs. So a couple of highlights in this budget that are personnel-related. This budget funds one new full-time position, which is a victim coordinator position in the police department. And this position is grant funded. The grant will pay 100% of this position, and we're only going to fill this position if the grant is awarded. This budget also funds merit-based pay and longevity pay for our employees. Merit-based pay, the range that an employee can receive is from 0 to 3%, and it's based on their evaluation that's performed on their anniversary month. Longevity is paid in November after 5 years of service, and the longevity amount is $100 up to a maximum of 30 years. Another big driver in this budget was our TCRS rate. TCRS is we're part of the TCRS retirement system, and they're now doing annual evaluations or actuary reports, and they increased our rate 1.55%. So for public safety officials, the rate is going from 20.5 to 22.05%. All other employees will go from 17% to 18.55%. This graph pie chart shows you our operating expenditures by department, and you can see fire and police, our public safety departments, make up 54% of our operating budget. And just very quickly to go through the departments, the general government operating budget is budgeted for $3,219,742. Capital is $16,750. Transfer to the Animal Control Fund $88,000, and transfer to the Tree Board $3,000. Police Department has an proposed operating budget of $8,829,378. Proposed capital budget of $234,500. Fire Department has a proposed operating budget of $5,211,733 and a proposed capital budget of $450,000, which is to purchase a rescue pumper fire truck, and that'll be purchased with the proceeds of a capital outlay note. Leisure Services Department has an proposed operating budget of $1,871,997, capital budget of $408,000. Parks and Maintenance Department has an operating budget of $1,451,410, a capital budget of $34,800. And Public Works has an operating budget of $3,349,395 and a capital budget of $188,500. Codes Department has an operating budget of $376,667 and a capital budget of $37,250. And the last department, the Planning Department, has an operating budget of $593,990 and no capital requested from that department. So to summarize the expenditures, the total operating expenditures in this budget is $26,158,644. Capital expenditures, $1,369,800. Transfers to the Animal Control Fund and the Tree Board, another $91,000. So the total appropriated expenditures in this ordinance is $27,619,444 for the general fund. To summarize, I'd mentioned a capital outlay note. 3 years ago, we had done a capital outlay note to purchase some equipment for various departments. That pays off in August. So in this budget, we're proposing to do another capital outlay note of $550,000, and that'll be used to purchase, as I said, a fire truck for $450,000. For Public Works, a pickup truck and an SUV. For the Codes Department, a vehicle for an inspector. And for the Leisure Services Department, a utility vehicle. And again, to do a debt issue like this, a capital outlay note, we have to get approval from the state. And so once we do that, we will be coming back to you to get approval to issue that debt. So to summarize the general fund, as I had mentioned at the beginning, this budget has a deficit of $407,580. So we're projecting to end next fiscal year with a fund balance of $15,268,784. And that's the general fund, and I'm going to keep moving unless you have a question about the general fund. State Street Aid is the fund where we take care of our city streets. Has in this budget has revenue of $2,682,504, expenditures of $2,879,340. We're projected to reduce fund balance next year by $196,836. We budgeted $600,000 for paving city streets, and we've got quite a bit in capital there, $2,128,000, because we have lots of projects going on right now. The multi-mobile access grant, the STP sidewalk grant where we're putting in sidewalks all around town. So we've got a lot going on in that fund. So that's what most of that capital is there. The solid waste fund, we have projected revenue at $2,008,946, less expenditures of $1,947,335. So we should have a fund balance at the end of next year of $833,613. Capital here is $420,000. I'll point out just one large item. We have budgeted to purchase an additional garbage truck. If you recall, this year we bought a front load, so next year we are budgeting to purchase a side load truck for $290,000. The drug fund, we have budgeted projected revenues of $60,700, expenditures of $108,500. Projected fund balance at the end of next year, $151,948. The tree board fund, projected revenues and transfers in of $3,570, expenditures $4,900, projected ending balance, fund balance next year $12,225. Animal control fund, projected revenues and transfers in $273,420, expenditures $302,616, projected ending fund balance next year $125,740. Economic Development Fund, projected revenue $339,396. Most of that comes from property tax. They get 4 cents on the property tax. Expenditures of $508,200. Transfers out to the general fund for the contribution to the Chamber for Highlands Initiative and Sports Council of $75,000. Projected ending fund balance next year, $635,355. Quality of Life Fund, they receive 1 cent on the property tax. Revenue here is $113,115. Expenditures $130,502, and transfers out to the general fund $16,007, and that's to cover the contribution to the Rail Trail Authority and the Cityscape for the fireworks. Projected fund balance at the end of next year, $228,745. General Improvement Bond Fund. This is where we account for all the debt that we issue over the years and the big projects that we try to get done with that debt. It has a beginning fund balance of $2.2 million, and that's some unspent bond proceeds from the last 2 debt issues we did. We still have some projects that are not completed from those bonds. So this fund has revenues, projected budget of revenues of $10,500, and we're also proposing to issue additional bond in this new budget of $2.2 million. So bond proceeds at $2.2 million, expenditures and transfers $3,979,000. So the projected fund balance at the end of next year would be $519,662. The proposed $2.2 million bond issue is to help us complete the Bennett Road. The last debt issue we did was to construct the Bennett Road. So we're going to need some more money. I think you're talking about a change order on that project tonight. So we'll need more money to finish that up. We're also looking if we get some land for a police station to start on design fees and architecture for that. And then also $200,000 to possibly do some Cedar Street Avenue improvements. So that's the bond fund. Whoops, let me go back one. So the debt service fund then is the fund where we account for making payments on the debts or the bonds that we issue. So we put 4 cents of the property tax in there, and it's projected to start the year with $10,944,000 in fund balance. Revenue going into this fund budgeted at $3.5 million, and expenditures, which are really the principal and interest payments on the debt, of $3,186,000. So we should end next fiscal year with a fund balance of $11,320,000. So to give you an idea about our debt, this shows you our current debt outstanding as of July 1st, 2017, what it will be. And you can see we have $17,010,000 in bonds that had previously been issued, and $4,128,666 in notes and loan agreements, for a total debt outstanding of $21,138,666. So if we do no additional debt issues, we don't ever borrow any more money, all that debt will be paid off in 2013. So that blue chart kind of shows you what the debt service will be on the current debt outstanding. So you say, what is? To give you an idea of what our debt capacity is, the blue bars are the debt service on the current debt outstanding, and the green lines are for the debt service on a $2.2 million debt issue if we do that in this coming year. And then those 3 little red bars are the payments on a capital outlay note if we do another capital outlay note this year. Then the purple blocks are what if we borrow $14 million in a year or two to proceed with the construction of a police station. And then the light blue bars on the top are, okay, right behind that, what if we borrow another $5 million for another project such as an aquatic center, which we've talked about. So, and then the red line across there is our estimated revenue that's going into the debt service fund as it is right now. And right now it's about $3.5 million, and I show a little bit of growth there. So you can see for about 7 or 8 years, we're actually going to be paying more out of that fund than what we would be putting in revenue. So you can say, well, what does that do to our fund balance? Well, you can see if we borrow all that money, an additional $19 million, our fund balance still does not get below $4 million. So that keeps our debt service fund at a healthy level. So in conclusion, that kind of shows you that we have the debt capacity in the next couple years to issue debt to help us accomplish our priority goals, that being a police station and an aquatic center behind that. And we can do that without having to dedicate or put any additional revenues into this fund. Does that make sense? Okay, well, I'm going to move on to the employee insurance fund. Fund balance at the beginning of the year, $2,881,000. Projected revenue, $4,757,500. Less expenditures, $4,757,500. We are self-insured, so this fund is used to pay our claims on our health insurance. And the workers' comp fund. This is kind of a fund where we pay out our workers' comp claims and liability claims, and then we bill those back to the department. So we've got projected revenue there of $651,500 and expenditures of $650,120. So projected fund balance at the end of next year of $814,933. Moving on to the utilities, the Water Quality Control Department. Cash reserves projected to be at the beginning of the year of $8,112,985. Revenue budgeted for next year, $14,436,000. Add back the provision for depreciation and amortization, $3,293,896. Less projected expenditures, $19,744,911. So he's projected to reduce his cash reserves next year by $2,015,015, leaving an estimated cash reserves at the end of next year of $6,097,970. Moving on to the gas department. They're projected to have cash reserves at the beginning of the year of $13,724,747. Revenue is budgeted at $10,799,233. Provision for depreciation and amortization of $700,000. Expenditures expenses $10,573,124. And he's projected to have a surplus of $926,109 and estimated cash reserves at the end of next year, $14,650,856. And the electric department. Cash reserves at the beginning of the year, $13,194,696, and then they've got $1,000 in cash reserves for a debt payment. Projected revenue next year, $57,049,637. Depreciation and amortization, $2,831,656. Expenses are projected to be $59,569,921. So revenue over expenditures there of $311,372. So cash reserves at the end of next year are projected to be $13,506,068, and you can see the debt reserve is zero because they're going to make that last debt payment on that debt that they have for that $1 million. Customer Service Department is an internal service fund, so whatever they spend, it gets billed back to the utilities. That's where we account for our meter readers and our customer service department. So we're projecting revenue and expenses there of $1,498,890. And we've included in their capital $170,000 to look at possibly changing utility billing systems. And the last fund is Cookeville Regional Medical Center. They have budgeted projected revenues at $279,274,754 and expenses of $293,125,846. And they are projected to have cash reserves at the end of next year of $61,100,000. And then you say, well, how much does all that add up to there that's in that ordinance in front of you? And the total that's in the appropriations that's in that ordinance is $430,678,148. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have, but I would recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion and a second. All right, we'll open our public hearing portion. Would anyone like to speak to this matter? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Any council members? Yes, sir.
Would you mind repeating that? Just I'm curious, Brenda. You mentioned that our tax rate's 84 cents, which was low, comparatively low to other communities our size, and that's a good thing. And also, if I understood correctly, about 90% of our revenue, I'm wondering, 90% of our revenue approximately comes from sales and our property tax collectively, about that, and about 70% of our expenses come from personnel-related type expenses. I wonder, as a matter of curiosity, if you happen to know, how do those two numbers compare with communities our size? Would you know if we're in line with revenues and expenditures in terms of percentage? Have any idea about
The
that?
types, no, I do not.
Okay, I'm just curious about that. Also, the other question I have is, you mentioned that to the extent that this council or a future council goes forward and borrows money for police headquarters and aquatic center and some other that our reserve fund could get down to around $4 million, and your phrase was that's still healthy.
Yes.
Is there a number that that's considered healthy, moving unhealthy, or a percentage of overall revenues? What is considered healthy for a city our size in terms of reserves?
In the debt service fund, we do not have an official policy on that, but standard practice and what I've seen other cities do is they like to have a reserve in there that would cover 1 year's worth of debt service payments. So our current debt service payments are like 3.5 million. So, and if you borrow more, that would go up a little bit. So you like to have enough in there in the fund balance that would cover 1 year worth of debt service payments.
So even if we reach $4 million, we would still have
We'd still be
enough
good,
to do
yeah.
that. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments? I would just say, obviously, as we've seen this, there's a lot of things that we have in progress that are addressing the needs that both were identified in the vision, and that council members, transportation, quality of life, public safety, and you can see the capital budget addresses those, the general budget addresses those, and I'm just very proud of our department heads who have worked diligently, and Mike Davidson and Brenda Emmel, to make sure that we can do this within the confines of work within our means, work within our budget of what we have, and not raise taxes. You know, obviously you could, the case could be made, you know, you could do a whole lot more if you did, but why would we do that? You know, we're able to fund capital and all those things. So I'm very proud of that, and very proud of this council for giving that directive to work within that and make this happen. So I think this is a very healthy budget, and we'll see great progress for our city. So any other comments? We will all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7D, consider approval of change order number 1 for the Bennett Road Extension Project. Greg Brown.
Mayor and Council, as you know, the Bennett Road project is divided into 2 phases, north and south, and I'd like to go over both change orders for each one, and then we could vote on each change order separately at the end. Most of these change orders are due to soil conditions we've discovered as construction progressed. First, I'd like to go through some photographs of what we've encountered on both phases. These 2 pictures on the left are on the south phase. Is an example of some poor soil we had to dig out and put some geotextile fabric down to replace it. The one on the right is on the north phase. It's a swampy area that we're running through. Those are some areas where we're trying to dig out some of the swampy areas, and some of these where you see the water standing is after it rained, but some of it, the water, it's groundwater that when they were undercutting, it just kept coming up through the soil. You can see the ruts in the middle picture where the soil was pumping, where construction traffic was going over. There's some more examples, the one on the left of the rutting from the soil. Picture on the right is a large dump truck. You see the little cable coming out the back end. That's where it got stuck in one of the areas we had to pull out with a dozer. And these areas were closer to the north end of the project. You can see all the debris, different things. There's a little junkyard up there that we were running into all kind of car parts and tires and all manner of things. To summarize the two phases, it's a 465-day contract. We began work on March 7th of 2016. The completion date of the contract, both phases, was June 14th of this year. The contract amount for the Phase 1, which is the South project, is $4,547,319. The contract for the North project is $4,721,404. On the South project, one of the main reasons we overrun or anticipate overrunning the contract is our soil conditions. When we dig those out, we have to replace the poor material with graded solid rock, which is large rock, anywhere from 1 to 3 foot in size. And you have to put extra crushed stone, which is the small rock that you see on the base stone, to cover that up, but that takes more of that material when you have to do that. Also had some overruns in asphalt. The south phase has the base and binder asphalt, nearly all of the job except till the very north end of the project. We still like completing the intersection with Buffalo Valley Road on the south pin, which involves adding turning lanes and traffic signals there. Currently, if the project keeps going at the same pace it is, what the quantities have overrun now is $343,000. As I said during the work station, we have not paid the contractor more than what the contract price is yet till we get the change order approved. At the end of the project, some quantities will be under and some will be over. Our inspectors and engineering that's been doing the inspection on the job have tried to anticipate what the final contract will overrun and try to be conservative in that number, and they've come up with $552,680. So the original contract, like I said, is $4,547,000, and the estimated final would be $5.1 million on that. I'll go on to the phase 2. Well, she left that part out. We can, I guess, go ahead and vote. I thought they was all together, but we can go ahead and vote on the phase 1 change order. We're keeping the same time. We request the final contract amount to be $5,100,000, which is a increase or a decrease, increase of $552,680.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Yes,
Mr. Mayor, I have a question question of clarification for Mr. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, I guess one of the things I just to clarify for the public that's here, that it's been my understanding and going through this bit by bit, piece by piece. So we've been on budget pretty much the whole time until we reach some of these areas where the soil issue has become a significant problem. We ran the same problem in the Highlands Park, or not the same, but equivalent in many ways. Would you please explain to the public that's here that the process that goes into vetting the site in order to try to make sure that we get these bids just right? I mean, that was one of the questions that I had and the other council members had about trying to get a handle on what we expect to fall into and why we didn't have that forecasted, and why now we're having to probably come up with an increase.
Well, as part of the design process, the engineering firm hired a geotechnical firm.
Right.
Which they go out and take borings at what they deem the appropriate spacing to try to determine what the soil conditions are. And they did find quite a bit of poor soil. As construction progressed, some of those areas had either expanded or were larger than what they thought. The groundwater was, in certain areas, was higher than what was shown on the borings. And that's what we're running into. We did anticipate some bad soil, but they're a lot bigger than what we anticipated going into the project.
And one of the things I learned at our at our work session is that we could test soils at a greater rate. We could space it less and do, but that's a very expensive process in order to do that. Would you kind of explain that too, please?
Yes, really the only thing you know is what the soil is right exactly where that bore is. You could go 10 feet away and have something completely different. So you could bore every on a 5-foot grit the whole project, but the cost would be very extreme, and if you're gonna build a road, you're still gonna have to pay for it.
Right.
But the general proceeded way to do that is just do a random borings to try to have a rough idea of what it is and plan accordingly to that.
I thanks for that clarification, because I wanted to make sure it didn't sound like that we weren't diligent in trying to figure out the soils and try to come up with a more solid budget. We were diligent, but the fact is that you can be over diligent, and if those bad soils don't come up, you've just actually wasted money. So according to the standards of geotechnical testing, it seems like we did pretty good, except there's just some of those spots that, like you said, it can be 10 feet.
As we talked about in the work session, we had the contractor there, and who was a sub also on the interchange project, and he outlined how they're having even a worse time with the interchange than we are at ours. They're several $1 million already over right now.
Yeah,
For
great
the
point.
same reasons we are.
Great point. The state and our tax dollars is going to fund that. So yeah, thanks, Greg.
Any other comments?
Larry, when we were talking about this in the planning stages back in 2012, 2013, and we at the council were talking about kind of an estimation of what the cost was going to be for this road, I think we were guessing closer to 12 million internally. So when the bids came in closer to 10, we were overjoyed. And even with these work order changes, we're still under what our original estimate was of 12 million. And it's whether you're building something for the public or an individual is doing it privately, this great part of the country we live in is very difficult to build on because of the soil and the rock under it. This makes it more costly to build something here.
Thanks. Good point.
Any other
Yeah.
comments? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. And 7E, consider approval of change order number 1 for the Bennett Road Extension Project North. Greg Brown.
Okay, the north part is basically from a few hundred feet north of Buffalo Valley Road to Highway US 70. We had some of the same conditions there, except the north project had even more of those conditions. We've had quite a bit of undercut areas. Some of the areas last fall, we tried to dig out and spread the dirt out to dry it out to try to use that dirt so we wouldn't have to bring in all this rock, and we just never could get it to where we could get compaction on it. So after this spring, we started bringing in rock to try to get on with the project. We also ran into the problem where we're building a bridge over the Nashville Eastern Railroad. When the surveyors were doing the surveying the site, you would get all the utilities to mark their location. There's a sprint line running along the railroad. Where it was located was not exactly where it was. It ended up being right under one of the bridge piers. So we had to contract with Sprint to relocate the line. So they'd already put some embankment in for the bridge, so we had to take that back out, get them to move the line, then we had to put the embankment back in. That was one of the additional costs. We have, like I said, $308,000 just for the rock was being placed for the wet soils. The extra cost for the geotextile fabric. You were talking about knowing just what you know where you drill the core. At the bridge, they drilled their cores where the piers and abutments were going to be, but they weren't exactly where they were going to be. So we ran into some pinnacled rock, which means it's like in a cave. Some of the rocks coming up from the bottom of the cave, where the shaft has to hit solid rock. So we hit one of those places in between that. So it's a lot longer than what it normally would have been. So that's extra concrete and steel to go into that. That was another extra $86,000 for it. We have not started widening US 70 yet. We already know it's going to be wet there. There's water stands there continuously. So that's going to have to be undercut and backfilled with rock. We also have the turn signals there. Right now, if the project continued on as it is, we have a total contract overruns of $542,000. Again, we've not exceeded the contract amount yet. We're waiting till the change order is approved before we would go past that. We've tried to anticipate what the final cost would be. We think if we raise the contract price by $978,585 and also extend the contract time from June 14th to September 28th of this year, and that's due to spending all that time last fall trying to get the soil dried out. It rained on it, get it wet again, and all the extra material we've had to use for undercutting. We feel that's justified. So the contract amount for phase two, again, the original contract was $4,721,404. We'd like to raise that price to $5,700,000 and extend the contract time to September 28th of 2017. And we'd request your approval.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I do, Mr. Mayor, if I had another comment. Yeah, Greg, and one of the things I learned in our work session is that this is not this road is not the first time that we've ran into this. We ran into all these same problems with our business park. As a matter of fact, you had educated me in the fact that Neal Street, when we did Neal Street, we ran into a lot of the same problems. And I want to just assure the public that even though we're undercutting and we've got water issues and pillars of stone that interrupt continuity of the earth, that we've got great roads. We have great roads in Cookeville that take care of the public. And obviously, I'm going to vote for this. Not so much so that not that I like overruns, and I appreciate that, but it's still we've ran into this. We have to get this done, and it's going to in the end. It's going to be a wonderful project. It's going to be very important. It's going to be wonderful for Cookeville and Putnam County and the Upper Cumberland. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments?
Greg, you're talking about most of the rock fill when you had to go undercut. They've been anywhere from 18 inches to 4 feet typically?
Yes, and there is a section on the north end that it's still, with a big rock, with the construction equipment going across it, it's still sinking in. So we're gonna try to cap it with smaller stone to try to distribute the load more, and hopefully that will alleviate that. But there's some of it, there's just not really a bottom to it.
Right. Was during the work session, I think it was brought to our attention that on the interchange, the contractor there is having to go down 7 or 8 feet.
That's correct.
So.
All right. Any other comments? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
All right,
Thank you. That concludes our somewhat lengthy agenda portion of the meeting. We have time for citizens that would like to speak before the council. Do we have anyone that would like to speak to the council on any non-agenda items? All right. Anything from the council?
If I could.
Yes.
As I expressed during the work session, I mean, the aftermath of this storm that we experienced it created a situation where it was almost literally all hands on deck for the city employees and the various departments. And I was just, everywhere I went for days, I heard nothing but high praise about how the departments came together and held hands and responded quickly and got the job done. And it just solidified once again in my mind the wonderful leadership we have with department heads. And I just want to thank you folks for responding to our citizens. I understand from the work session, Tony, that of the 18,000 or so electric customers, we had 13,000 of them were out initially. And then as we whittled that down to 40 or 50, we had another storm that complicated things a little bit. But the response from City Hall was wonderful, and I just extend my personal gratitude and thank you for the great job you did to respond to our citizens as effectively and quickly and professionally as you did. Thank you so much.
I'd also like to thank the city employees because holiday weekend became overtime, triple time. It became anything but a holiday, and the quickness that they were able to address the tragedy of the weather and the conditions makes you appreciate our utility departments and how well they're run, and the quality of people of all the departments pitching in and helping. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I was out of town, fortunately, during this thing, but what I've seen walking around and what the different public works and the electric department have done to put in new poles and string wire and get the debris off the roads, it's just been remarkable, which shows we've got a high-quality, well-trained organization to respond to these emergencies. And I think we're getting more than our money's worth from the fact that we've got such a good organization in the city of Cookeville.
And Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to add a little personal note to that. On over this weekend, this storm weekend, rescued a mother that was pushing a baby carriage that was had their kids playing in the park, got trapped in a rainstorm. Okay, just picked her up, took her to where her car was. While her kids were underneath one of our awnings in Dogwood Park, et cetera, et cetera. They were visiting out here from Jackson, Tennessee, and she made the comment that they had been here this whole weekend, taking advantage of some of the recreational things that we have out here, specifically our waterfalls. And she made a comment that basically what my council members have confirmed is that I've never been to a place that was so responsive and worked so hard to get things taken care of us in such a terrible situation. And it's great to hear that. I said it's personal because it's great to hear. It's one thing to hear it from my council members and my department heads because I know you guys, but it's another thing to hear it from somebody that is from out of town and is used to their municipality and seeing the way we do things, and they're very appreciative of that. So I just wanted to add that's a little personal note for all of our department heads and our administrators that do that. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. I'll say a couple things about it. I was called to emergency operations center and was there, and then went out and I, beyond obviously the electric department who've worked 20 and 30 hours at a time with very little rest. Now our public works were out doing that same thing, and they'll be working for literally weeks and probably months picking up the aftermath of the debris. It can't go left unsaid also about the fire department, police department. I was with the police department at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they had gone and gotten chainsaws and were cutting trees out of the street, helping with that. So it is all hands on deck. I stopped by today. The last customer was turned on this morning, and we had a crew from McMinnville that was here for a day or two. We've had a crew from Murfreesboro that's been here almost the whole time, and 2 from Gallatin that's been here the whole time. The one I got to meet, Logan and Jacob, they were from Gallatin Electric Department. They were just 2 phenomenal guys. I actually tried to hire them for Tony, asked them not to leave. All of our guys were talking about how great they were. They were supposed to only be here for a day or so. They said they were not leaving until we got back on. They stayed. I know Mike McClatchy's wife and our electric department washed their clothes for several days, and I know we fed them. They were just great. And the cool thing was they said to me that of all the places they've been, and they've gone and done contract work and they've gone and done storm work before, that we by far have the friendliest, nicest people in this town. And I think that's a great compliment, because in the worst of times that, it really rises up, and received literally thousands of messages about this storm. And out of all of that, there was probably less than 5 out of over 3,000 that was somebody really upset. So I think that's phenomenal. How quickly it was all done. If your power's off for 5 days, you don't feel like that's quick, but it wasn't because they weren't trying to be quick. It's just literally a complete rebuild in some areas of an entire electric system. And all of our crews, plus these 4 additional crews that helped, just really amazing. And also the countless people, dozens of people brought food to your department for your guys. I want to say something too about Ken Hall and the Monterey Lions Club. Those guys respond to emergencies all over, literally all over the country. They do call outs, and I met him Saturday night. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. They had already come. He saw what was going on. He and his group were already down here. No one called him. I had just gone through Chatsworth. It was completely, every road was blocked, and I told him that. His guys went and did Chatsworth right then, cleared that road. But they came back. They came back 2 more times. They took care of a tree off of a lady's house that had no insurance, an elderly lady that we'd gotten a message about. Sent that to them. They went and did that. Now they're raising money to fix her roof. Then came back the next day. Greg had gotten a message of somebody needing something cut, and the city couldn't cut it because it was on private property, and the lady's husband was injured, very sick. And they showed up and took care of that. That's the kind of stuff that's just amazing, and that's the kind of community we live in. The flagpole broke at Andy's Pharmacy. And somebody stopped in the middle of that storm and took that flag off the ground and folded it into the triangle like it's supposed to be and placed it back on the bench. I mean, that is just, words don't even describe that.
That's why I live here.
Anyway, I just wanted to say a personal thank you, not only obviously all of our departments, but our citizens who persevered through this as well, and it's just really, really awesome. So thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments? We will be adjourned.